Okay, quick video for myself, Harvey Goldman. No cuts, no edits, no filters, and no hair. So, today's video, really just want to put a quick one out there about renting in the UK. Is it a life sentence? I know that opinion is going to be divided. I've experienced both sides of it, so I do actually feel that I'm all right to discuss this one. I rented probably from when I was about 18 years old up until I was 41. And at 41, well, perhaps almost 42, I decided to put a deposit on a property and all the rest of it. So I spent a long time renting, and I've rented properties in London. I lived in London 3 times before coming back to Devon each time with my tail between my legs. So I've rented in London, and I've rented in Devon, and a few other bits in between. And now I own a property, or I've got a mortgage on a property, so I own whatever I've paid into it so far. So there are various reasons that I think that renting is a life sentence. Now, I know there are benefits to renting, not many, but there are. And the biggest one that I can see is that you are able to adopt a lifestyle where if you wake up one morning and you want to take your work overseas, you want to just move abroad, or you just don't like the area and you just want to go somewhere else, it's easy, or it's easier. You can give your notice, give up the property, clear all the bills that you've accrued, and you're free to do whatever you want. So for those people that perhaps are young, that don't have kids, that want, that YouTube lifestyle, that digital nomad lifestyle that we see people peddling, that's perfect. That puts you exactly where you would need to be able to go and do that. However, it's at the expense of rents that are the highest they've ever been in comparison to basically the wages. Now, wage increases are basically stagnant. I know there have been figures that have put out by the likes of The Guardian and Reuters that have said that there was growth in the UK of 5.6% through 2024. However, some clever bugger then adjusted that to be per head, and that brought it down to minus 0.1%. So you can't call that growth. All you can call that is what it is. It's stagnation, if not a growth reversal. So obviously it's difficult for people to get on the property ladder. It's made even harder for people to get a deposit to try and get a mortgage, because they're in a position where they're paying the highest rents that people have ever paid in a market that has got no sign of dropping, and they're also having to try and save to get a deposit to buy a house. It's not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. Now, I consider myself lucky. I managed to shift a business that I had. I then put a good portion of that money up as a deposit on a mortgage, and I did that about 8 months, maybe 6 months before COVID hit, or the first whisperings of COVID hit. And the property market was actually all right. I know that my property, it had been sold 9 years before I bought it, and the lady that I bought it from, in the time that she owned it, it went up about 15 grand. So she paid about 200,000 for it. She put it on the market at 220. I bought it at 215. So in 9 years, she realised less than £2,000 a year in terms of increased value on the property. When I bought it, within 2 years, COVID hit, the pandemic hit, my property was worth 350, literally overnight. Couldn't explain it. In the space of realistically, about 4 to 6 months, it was worth 350 grand. So in that time, I made effectively about £130,000 in perceived value on that property. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean anything. It's all relative, because if I sold that property now, yes, I'll have a big chunk of money and all the rest of it, but everything else in the area has gone up, so I can't buy anything else for 220,000, not even close. I'd be lucky to get a flat. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I feel that I lucked out a little bit buying when I did. That was just timing. It was nothing to do with design. I'm definitely not not that clued up. I'm definitely not that clever. But I do pity people that are renting at the moment. And I know that the average rent for my area, £1,271, is mental. My mortgage is around £800 a month. And I hate paying that, because I know that probably about 300 of it is paying the property off, and probably 500 of it is interest. It's mental. But I can't fathom paying almost £500 more just to rent and never to actually own anywhere. That just seems like lunacy. It does make me pity people that are renting. It does make me wonder how they will ever get a deposit for a property. And I can't imagine, as I said, anybody that's paying £1,200+ a month in rent being able to save up £50,000-60,000 to get a deposit on a house. It just seems like it's never going to happen for them. So renting nowadays feels like a trap. This is the way that I look at it. Tell me if your experience is different, by all means. I'm really keen to find out what your take on this is. I know that my daughter had looked at renting. Her rent for her one-bed flat that she moved into, and then swiftly moved out of, was £950 a month for a one-bed flat in Devon. I mean, that's nuts. That is really nuts. And that's without anything. That's without any water, electric, gas, council tax. You put all of that on top, it's another £400 a month, maybe £500 a month. And then you think about the level of income that you might have left over. If you're in a normal job, you're probably on £2,500 a month pre-tax. Take your tax off, take your NI off, and all the other stuff that you have to pay. You probably get £2,000 a month take home, maybe a little bit more in an average normal job in Devon. So if you're paying, the best part of £1,600-1,700 for your property, and then you've still not bought food, you've still not paid for a car or fuel or bus pass or however you get to work, how the hell do you do it? It kind of explains the rise of OnlyFans, if I'm being honest, and I neither agree nor disagree that it's a good thing. I just think it's a gap in the market that's been exploited, and people are obviously making money from it. Fair play to them. But I can kind of see why men and women do it. I can see why people create cash side hustles and just try and do things cash in hand. I can also see why people throw the towel in and just say, well, why should I bother paying for my rent when I can just sign on sick or just not work and get most of it topped up from the government, It creates its own kind of whirlpool of issues, having rents and house prices this high. And I don't think there's any sign of them going the other way. I really don't. There is a chap that I was told to have a look at on YouTube. I think he's called Gary's Economics, or Gary the Economist, or something like that. Quite an astute fella. He's gone into it a little bit on one of his videos. And yeah, go and have a look. Anyway, what's your take on this? What's your experience of the UK rental market? Are you renting a property at the moment and trying to get a mortgage? If so, how hard is it for you? Have you gone the other way? Have you gone out of a rental market, out of a rental property, bought your home, and you regret it? I want to hear all sides. For myself, as I've said, I believe that I made the right decision, and I was just very lucky with the timing and the property that I chose and the amount of money that I had available to put a deposit on. I think if I didn't have that amount of money as a deposit, if perhaps I was a year late or chose to do it a year later, it'd be a very different story for me right now. So I'm blessed and cursed in equal measure, but I'm really keen to hear your view on it. So let me know in the comments. YouTube's going to put a video up here somewhere. Maybe give it a look. And then like, follow, subscribe, ring the bell, all that jazz. Another video tomorrow. Goldman. Peace out.